Hey friends, welcome. It is about 8 o'clock my time, so I finally got the kids to bed. And I wanted to talk to you, this was just kind of spur of the moment, about simple food prep for mealtime success. Because we talk a lot about food prep and how it's such a good idea, but the reality is a lot of us don't have like 8 hours. Hang on, I'm going to try to adjust this light so I'm not all washed out. A lot of us don't have like 8 hours in a day to do all of the cooking and all of the cleaning up and all of the mess that happens when you're trying to do food prep. I've tried a lot of different ways to prep my food ahead of time, and some ways burned me out and some other ways were actually really great. So learn from my mistakes, and I'm going to show you some of the best food prep when it comes to real food that's simple, takes only a couple of minutes, and sets you up for eating really well the rest of the week. So the first thing I want to tell you about is I brought visuals because it's much more interesting to watch a video when people are actually doing something instead of just the talking head. So sweet potatoes. You can do regular sweet potatoes, you can do baked potatoes, whatever you want. But I find that if I make these, like a tray of them at the beginning of the week, I'm far more likely to eat them or to just throw them in the toaster oven or something to warm them up. And I can eat them for breakfast, I can eat them for lunch, I can add a couple of them to dinner. And because sweet potatoes take a long time to bake, it cuts down on my cooking time for dinner. So if it's already sitting in the fridge, then it's done. These, I like to follow the deeply flavorful sweet potato recipe that's on my site, and it's just one extra step. Instead of just poking the sweet potatoes with a fork and popping them in the oven, then I just do one more thing to them, and it's a game changer because they turn out so flavorful and so wonderful. You don't feel like you need to drown them in brown sugar and butter to make them taste good. So sweet potatoes is one of my favorite things to make ahead. Another food that I like to make ahead that takes like maybe 2 minutes to prep is hard-boiled eggs, okay? So I do them in the Instant Pot because that's just the most convenient way to do it. So you can pop them in there, you can forget about them. Can't totally forget about them or else they end up overcooked, but it's very easy, and then they're very easy to peel. So then that makes it an easy protein, and it's not highly processed or full of a lot of salt like tuna fish or something like that. It's just an egg, you know? You don't even need to fry it, you don't even need to cook it. You can grab it like first thing in the morning out the door, and you've got protein right on hand. So sweet potatoes, hard-boiled eggs. And then I like to chop our vegetables. So for example, we have peppers. These are really easy to to chop ahead of time and just keep in a Tupperware in the fridge. And you can use them for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. A lot of like one-pot meals that we've been making this week have called for chopped peppers. So I can just chop them ahead of time, and then it just makes the food prep or the actual meal preparation that evening that much faster. Plus, if it's already sliced and sitting in my fridge, I'm far more likely to grab a pepper than if it's sitting in the crisper drawer just dying. It's less appealing. So the next thing is like summer squash or something. I will shred this quite often, and that way I can toss it into eggs, or I even have a recipe on my site where I use it in baked oatmeal. It's kind of a sneaky way to get some veggies in. It's kind of like a zucchini bread deal, so don't be too grossed out. But I like to have summer squash already sliced and ready because then I'm more likely to grab it when dinner time happens. And then onion. So I have not researched this, but I've heard that sliced onion tends to absorb like nasty stuff and smells and everything that's in the fridge, and I don't know this for sure. So anyway, one of the things that I've been doing is if I chop an onion in advance, I will toss it in a zipper bag in the freezer so that way it doesn't absorb anything, because you know I haven't taken the 5 minutes to research it on Google. But it also just makes it easy, and the onion's not going to go bad, and it's not going to stink up my fridge or anything, and it actually cooks a little faster once it's been in the freezer than if it's fresh. Plus, we all know the problem with onions. If I'm not wearing my contacts, then it's a nightmare slicing the onions. So if I'm already wearing my contacts, I can slice all the onion for the week in like 5 minutes, and then I'm done. It's really simple. And then the other thing, which is a little more trendy, but I've found that it works for us, and it still only takes about 5 minutes to do a week's worth of work, is smoothie bags. So the idea with the smoothie bag is that you take whatever size blender or whatever size, if you're filling your blender up halfway for a smoothie for you or whatever, fill it up with the frozen items that you would normally put it in, or put in the smoothie, and then toss it into a quart-size freezer bag. That way, in the early morning, when you're tempted to just skip breakfast or skip the trouble of having a smoothie, you've already got this, and you just need to add almond milk and blend it, and you're done. So this is for, you can tell it's a very small smoothie. It's for my son because he really likes smoothies in the morning, and I don't really like smoothies in the wintertime, so I just prep them for him. And then I had, let me check my notes real quick. So those are my like quick fix ones where I feel like I'm really focusing on nutrient dense foods. We're talking sweet potatoes, we're talking vegetables, we're talking protein, all good things to add to your diet. And then there's kind of the more classic make ahead things that takes a little more effort, but if you make them anyway, going ahead and making them, in an hour or two of your food prep time will help you save time. Or if it's something that you don't do very often, then you can be intentional about it, and making these ahead of time kind of makes it actually happen in your week. So we will try to make bread all in 1 week, all in one day. So 1 week's worth of bread happens all in 1 day. And that for us, because we don't eat bread with every meal, but because we love bread when we do make it, I'll make like 2 or 3 loaves at a time. And once it's done, and I won't make it again until the next time. And I have a recipe on my site for the easiest bread ever. It's actually just 15 minutes of active work, and you probably need about 2.5 hours total of time being at home, but you don't need to knead it or anything. You literally just stir it together and then set it to rise, punch it down, put it in the loaf pans, and bake it. So it takes very little skill. If you are trying to get into baking bread and you want to try something that's simple, that's the recipe to try. The other thing we like to make ahead is granola. So if you're trying to steer away from cereal, but you need kind of an in-between, like a baby step, then we make homemade granola, and I have one that's only naturally sweetened, and it uses butter and applesauce and just real food ingredients, and we will make that and just eat off of that for a week. It also freezes really well, so if you want to make a big batch all in 1 day and just store it in a freezer bag in the freezer, then you're good. Very, very easy. You just thaw it out and you can use it and store it at room temperature, and it's awesome. We also like to make baked oatmeal. So my oatmeal recipe has you soak the oats overnight in the fridge. I've tried it without soaking them overnight, and it's fine. It totally works. Don't feel like you have to do that, but I like the results better when I soak them overnight. So I will go ahead and put the oats and the milk together and let it sit in my fridge, and that's my like prep ahead for oatmeal. But if I want to go ahead and make it all at once, I can also do that. It just depends on what time I have. And I like our baked oatmeal recipe was a long time coming because it is allergy free. So it doesn't have any gluten, it doesn't require any dairy, it doesn't take a lot of like fat, like there's no butter in it or anything like that. And it's naturally sweetened, and there's an egg-free version on the site. So that's one of my favorite things to make for a simple breakfast that I don't really need to think about the next day. So all of that to say, if you are struggling with your goals in the new year of eating healthy, I hope some of these tips helped you kind of get the juices flowing of what works for you and what maybe you can put your time towards. Maybe you're doing keto, or maybe you're trying paleo or Whole30, and you can use those tips at the beginning to kind of get on it and not be so overwhelmed when it comes to mealtime. Or maybe you have kids and you're trying to just make more stuff from scratch. And so those are some recipes that I mentioned before that have worked really well for us. I mean, we've been making almost all of those recipes for almost 10 years now. They're our favorites, and we go to them at least once a month, if not more often. And then if you're still struggling with figuring out food prep and what to make and all of that, I want to remind you that tonight is the last night to get the Healthy Meal Planning Bundle. So it's if you've been thinking about it or you're not sure about it, like, now's the time to jump on it because it goes away forever at midnight tonight. It's just $37, and they have meal plans for Instant Pot and One Pot and ketogenic diets and paleo, and you get all of that, so all the seasons of life, for less than $3 a month for the next year. And it also comes with grocery shopping lists and a cheat sheet so that you know exactly what to prep ahead each day. So I just need to look at like Tuesday night and know that, oh, I need to thaw the beef for tomorrow. And I don't even need to think about that. I just look at the list and it's already done the thinking for me. So if that's something you're interested in, there's a link in the description so you can hit that up and get the details and decide if that's going to work for you. But I am always cheering for you, and I hope that whatever goals that you're making this year, that I can help you along with them, and that you feel like you've been equipped and encouraged to reach them, because taking care of your body is really important, and I want to help you save money and eat healthy, and you can do both at the same time. It takes some learning, it takes some getting used to, but you can do it, okay? So have a good night, and thank you for visiting, and I hope to talk to you again soon.